Hello and welcome to the THC show. This is the show where we try to find some truths and give people a little bit of hope and try to find some ways to change things for the better. Today on the show we're going to have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca join me for the 420 session. Unfortunately Jerry Martin won't be here, but we'll still do the Martin Medical Moment, of course. And my guest on the show will be Chris Livingston today. We're here broadcasting from the Healing Wave Cannabis Substitution Program Dispensary. You can see a little bit in the background here of people coming into the store. It's a little bit busy today as we get busier and busier every day. Things have been going really well. We haven't had any interference from government. We have had the city personnel here at one point just seeing what we're doing and said that she'd be back with feedback for us, but that hasn't happened yet. So we're now entering our 5th week of providing low barrier access to people with our cannabis dispensary here. And this is a medical dispensary. It's not within the government system. We have a full range of what people would need for their medical needs, from suppositories to CBD creams and tinctures and all sorts of edibles. And we have really good prices on all of our stuff because that's what we need to do to have it low barrier. We're here on the downtown east side of Vancouver, and our target audience or target clientele are the people from this area that are struggling with poverty and substance use issues and things like that. We're happy to have anybody come to our store and support us, and people are coming from all over the lower mainland to come here and see what we've got and to support us. But our real target group is the neighborhood right here, and so we want to make sure we've got what people need in the way of therapeutic cannabinoids to help them with their issues. We have the Cannabis Substitution Program now here instead of at Vandu, and now people don't have to line up twice a week and spend 3 hours in the cold or the heat or whatever it is going on outside. They can come in here at their own leisure. There's seldom a lineup. If there is, it's only just a couple minutes wait. The thing is, though, with the Cannabis Substitution Program, we've had to cap it. We've got 200 members now, and that's a pretty big amount of people to be helping the way that we are. Everybody gets to choose 420 milligrams of high-dose cannabis edibles every 4 days. So with 200 people doing that, that's over 80,000 milligrams every 4 days that we're putting out, and we've been doing that successfully for the last 4 weeks. Now we're into our 5th week, and I think that we can continue to do that for the foreseeable future. What we're not sure if we're going to be able to do is take more clients, and that's really hard for me because I don't like turning people away. There are so many people in this area that we could help, and we would really like to help them all or be able to help all of those that would like our help. But for the past few days, we've had to turn people away and tell them that until we can do an assessment and see where we're at and maybe if we could expand it some more, or perhaps we could get the city to help us. They said they would support low barrier access to deal with the opioid crisis, and that means high dose edibles, and that means giving it away for free to the people that can't afford it. So we're really hoping that the government is going to support us in that. We've yet to have those conversations, but we will. In the meantime, things are going pretty well here at the store and in British Columbia. A little bit of a COVID update. We've talked about it on the show just about every week for the past few months now. That in British Columbia here, we managed to flatten that curve down to nothing about 3 months ago. So thankfully, there's been no new spikes in cases. There's no sign of a second wave. There are some concerns about people coming into the province from either the airport or from the border saying they're going to Alaska, and other people coming in from across Canada coming west as well. But there has been no spikes in cases to match that, so that's good. I did have dinner the other night, and the waitress was an immunologist. And she said that her big fear was the hotels, that she looks at the hotels and thinks that there must be cases coming there that are going to start to spread. But once again, there has been no new cases in any of the hotels. And we're just hoping that our provincial government does a good job here of screening people that are coming in and making sure that those that do come in are doing the proper things to keep themselves isolated until such time as they can be deemed to be COVID-free. And they're testing everybody everybody as well. And so with a lot of testing going on, there's been less than 20 cases a day in British Columbia, a province the size of Western Europe, and with about 5.5 million people here. And the 20 or so cases is actually more like about 10 or 12 cases a day pretty much for the last while. They're all in care homes pretty much. There really isn't anything in our communities. So that's really, really good for BC. But the rest of the world, of course, is still struggling in many places, including our neighbors to the south and Brazil, and many other places are really having a hard time because their hospitals are being swamped and overwhelmed. The new cases are high every day, and there's a lot of people that are dying from this virus. So if you're in some place other than BC where you've got an issue with this, well, I hope that you're taking the proper precautions and keeping everybody safe and trying to get that curve down, or those numbers down, the way we have here. So hopefully that's coming. Another topic would be that we had Cannabis Day recently. And it was a lot different than Cannabis Days over the last dozen years or so. It was quite a throwback to times gone by. It really seemed that way. We had about a dozen tents set up, but it rained all day long. We were at Thornton Park. We didn't have a stage. I did set up a tent and a table, and I brought in a small sound system. So we had music all day, thanks to 8 out of 10 Glenn, who brought his ability to have us have music. And we had a few people speak at different times, and I did Duo Cannabis at 4 o'clock or 4:20. And it was really a pretty good day, I think, felt by all. And it was kind of capped off by a VPD senior officer arriving and not believing what he could see there, that people would actually have the nerve to set up tents on Cannabis Day and have cannabis available for people. So I followed him as he got out of his car and walked into the park and came up to our booth first and announced that that was completely illegal what we were doing, and we'd have to stop or he was going to send in the cannabis crew. Jen, our volunteer there, informed him that this is a society and we're here to help people get off of opioids, and that we're pretty much doing what we're doing by donation. And so he marched to the next tent and announced to them that what they were doing was illegal, and he was going to call in the cannabis crew. Well, he got descended on by myself and Darren Terry and Dylan McCardle and a few others who had a lot to say to him. I was certainly not happy that he was there after 2015. I kept trying to remind him about 2015 and point out that after the fiasco that the VPD pulled off that year, that he shouldn't be there at all, then he should go away. But if he wanted to call in the cannabis crew, well, that would be fine. We'd like to talk to those people. We got lots to say to these people, and we'd love to have them have a little trouble sleeping at night as they come to the realization that what they're doing is nothing more than an immoral and corrupt protection racket for corporate weed at the expense of the good people who have brought the industry to where it is so far. So it was fun to have the cops there. Unfortunately, the cannabis crew never did show up. We didn't get to lecture them or teach them anything. We just had a peaceful, good day of helping people get access to cannabinoids, and it was good to see as many people come out as did in the pouring rain. And a lot of people came and spent a little bit of time socializing with people, buying what they wanted to buy, and then going back home and consuming it. So during the course of the day, we did have a few hundred people show up there, but it was a small little gathering. It reminded me a lot of about 20 years ago with how we did Cannabis Day in 420. So that was fun, and at least we got that under our belt and pulled off. And August 3rd, I believe, coming up is the BC Bud Day at Thornton Park, and hopefully it's a nicer day than it was for Cannabis Day, and we get a whole bunch of people coming out there and vendors coming out as well. So that should be fun. Meanwhile, we still have the store going on, and we're really happy that a lot of people are coming to check us out. And we're really doing it the way that we in the cannabis community have been asking for it to be done since legalization hit, since even before that. To have actual medical cannabis dispensaries with reasonable access and to have low barrier access, that's the dream of the cannabis community for a long time. And it's a reality right here at 157 East Cordova in Vancouver. We're here from 11 to 7, 6 days a week. We're taking Mondays off for now. We're not really officially open until probably August 1st. We'll have some sort of a grand opening. But as you can see behind me, well, we're slow at this particular moment, but there's people coming in. As soon as we got the key to this place and managed to secure a storefront, we wanted to help people. We thought that if we have the key, if we have a space, then let's get the doors open, because we do have products for people right away. So the day after we rented this place, we started helping people on the street, and word of mouth has just gone, widespread throughout. And we haven't done much advertising. I have talked about it on this show, of course. This is, I think, the fourth time now, third or fourth, that we're broadcasting from the store. I put this window in yesterday so we could be up here in the loft area, and we could broadcast from here, because it gets a little noisy down there. It's been a little chaotic at times for the show, so we're a little farther removed from it here, but you can still see what's going on, so that's really awesome. And come on down and see us for your wide range of medical cannabis needs. We really do have pretty much anything that you could want, and we've got it at prices that make it reasonable and easy to access as well. In the world of legal cannabis, those companies are still having a lot of trouble, and the reason is apparent to us. I mean, we could see right from the onset that they really don't know what they're doing with respect to selling cannabis to people. Can you imagine losing money selling cannabis to people? That's pretty silly. But the government's just doing it in such a way as that the majority of people aren't going to support them, and they will never support them. And the real customer base would be the daily users. And the daily users can't use government stores because it's just too pricey. Their weed isn't very good anyway, but if you pay $20, you can get something that might be worth having, but that's just for a gram. That's a gram of weed at $20. That's obscene. And so people getting like dried out, not so good, overpackaged, overpriced cannabis from a store that's involved with wanting to shut down places like us that are actually getting it to people reasonably, using the money for the increased enforcement that's going on around cannabis, tax dollars being used to try to protect a corporate monopoly that's trying to replace an already vibrant and thriving cottage industry that was self-regulating and doing a great job of providing access to people. And then Trudeau comes along and says, we're going to have legalization for everybody. And we got sucked into that because we believed him. But legalization wasn't for us. It was not the type of legalization that we've been asking for. We want it legalized so that everything that happens at a 420 event where we've got several hundred vendors, that's legal, that those people aren't treated as criminals. Using the criminal law to try to force people into using alcohol, tobacco, pharmaceutical products, and fossil fuels and other things like that is completely immoral. I mean, not only is it immoral, but it really undermines our entire justice system. When you try to make something a criminal act and call it a crime, where there is no actus rea and there's no mens rea, and that means that the perpetrator didn't understand in his mind that what he was doing was actually going to harm people in a significant way. And he didn't go out and act anyway, even though he knew that was going to be a crime. And it takes that to be a crime. A crime is intentionally causing significant damage to somebody else. And it's just never been a crime to grow a bunch of plants to make money. It's never been a crime to have cannabis and provide it to somebody, trade it to them, or whatever you're doing. You're not hurting them. You're not hurting anybody. I mean, and nowadays you're hurting the legal cannabis industry, and that's who's really being threatened and harmed by other people that are growing cannabis and selling cannabis besides them. But that's not a crime, because what they're doing is a crime. Having a monopoly, having that monopoly protected with tax dollars and police resources, that's a crime. Telling good people that they have to go to a government store and buy shitty, overpriced, overpackaged swag, that's a crime. Telling people, medical patients, that they can't have a storefront and go in and get reasonable low barrier access, that's a crime. All of these things where they're over-regulating, restricting, and prohibiting cannabis are criminal acts against us as free people and this planet and this environment, our society. These are criminal acts being perpetrated on us by our heads of state, by our prime minister, by our police chiefs, by the people who we're paying to protect us. And they're taking that money and they're protecting corporate interests, and they are harming us. So that's why we protest. That's why I quit my job to do this a long time ago. That's why I can't quit doing it, because people are being harmed every day by these immoral, unjustified laws that are simply there because of greed and corruption. So, very upset about all that still going on, and we still have a lot to protest. So screw the government for telling us that we can't grow more than 4 plants, or that we can't buy it off our friend who happens to be growing it in his basement or backyard. Screw the government. Overgrow the government. Grow more than 4 plants. Don't buy it off of them. Buy it off the guy that's got a basement or a backyard full of it. And let's support the green market that got us to where we are. And let's do something to stop the government from running their monopoly and harming people with ridiculous penalties for things. It's just obscene. The legal stores are not doing well, as I said, because of it. We've got, who is it now, Neil, that is trying to have a merger with one of the grocery stores or something?
Fire and Flower.
Fire and Flower, who've been closing stores and losing money, are now saying that they want 1,000 stores, and they want them to be in the grocery stores, like the corner stores that are open 24 hours a day. And I mean, Circle K, yes, cannabis should be available in those places, but no, it shouldn't be available at those prices and with all of those restrictions and all of that packaging and stuff that's going on there. For one example about having access, at a government store, you have to be over 19 and you have to show ID. Well, here you don't have to show ID. And we make members out of people. Everybody here has to be a member. We don't make them use their real name. If they're obviously an adult, they have a choice. They have the option. They get to be members, but they get to use whatever name they want to use. Because many people, for lots of reasons, don't have ID or don't want to use the name that they've been given. And we need to respect those people. Certainly in this area where poverty is a big issue and substance misuse is a big issue, we need to have these people able to be helped. We need to have it accessible for them. So in our membership book now, we've got about 400 members just in the 4 weeks that we've been open. We have signed up 400 people as members here on the Healing Wave side, and there's probably about 25% of them that aren't using their real name and don't want to and don't have ID to back it up in any case. And we want to help those people too. Those people would be turned away if the government had their way, and those are some of the most vulnerable people that need our help more than others. So that's an example of how the government is not helping people that are in trouble with poverty and other issues. It's 4:19. You got 1 minute to roll them if you got them, and then I'm already rolled here, but and I see Glenn's over there and he's already rolled. I've been really happy to have 8 out of 10 Glenn come and join me every week here. It's been a real thrill.
Thank you, sir.
We have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, I love being here.
It's fun. This is a new one, eh?
I like the new one.
Yeah.
Put the new love seat up here instead.
Maybe.
Maybe we get it up here, eh? It might be
Yeah.
a little bit tight on the stairs.
Might be tight on the stairs. It's going to be tight going in my car. But Tressa, a friend of Glenn's,
Yes.
decided that she would donate some stuff to us, and that included this big love seat. I went and looked at it last night.
Yeah, it's nice.
Fully reclines, so it's going to be
both
nice for
sides,
people.
apparently.
Yeah, it's two separate units. Apparently they come apart.
Sounds
And I'm
very
hoping
nice
that they
of
do.
Tressa
We're going to
do
go
that.
get them tonight. So.
We should tag her in the video today.
Sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, all right.
Glenn uses this thing. He keeps up with the chat. I'm really sorry, chatters, but I have a hard enough time focusing on what I'm doing without trying to multitask and look at a screen and
There we go. All right.
But we do have Glenn here looking after that, and Neil's pretty good at that. So
Neil's better than I am.
If you are a chatter and you got things to say, go ahead and chat. And I eventually do look at it, usually sometime over the next day or two when I get a chance.
Happy 420, sir.
Happy 420.
There we go. Let's spark them out. Happy 420, everybody. So you said we're going to be back in the park on August 1st?
I think it's the 3rd.
Is it? Oh, is that BC Day?
Yeah, I think I posted it as the 5th, but I think it's actually the 3rd.
Do you want me to ask Google?
That's what happens when you work in a pot store.
When is BC Day?
All right, let's find out.
Third.
The third. So
Yeah, so
I was right that I was wrong.
Yeah, you're right that you're wrong. Yes.
Right that I was wrong.
It almost sounds like an oxymoron.
Happens all the time to me.
Yeah.
I love Google, though.
I love Google, yeah.
Used to be back in the day, you could be wrong for months and months at a time and not know it. You're standing with your friends, you think you know something, you throw it, or somebody throws something out there and you believe it or whatever it is, and nobody can check, nobody really knows. You hang on to it and walk around with it for days, weeks, months, and then eventually you find out, oh, that's not right,
Unless
now,
you had a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica.
like we do in here, right here.
I know.
We got that plus more right here.
Plus more now, right? Yeah,
plus more.
They never had everything in it. But those guys were always coming to our door trying to sell us more.
I remember that. Encyclopedia salesman.
Yeah, we had like a piece of furniture for it and everything, and a whole bookcase with 2 levels.
I think I still got some of those in my storage.
You do you?
I'm pretty sure I do.
Those got to be antique by now.
I don't know if they're worth anything or not. They're outdated and,
I would
they
think
don't have all the information.
I would think a book would be worth something eventually,
You would think so.
Yeah, if there's like a big EMP house and Mike's had all computers and stuff like that, books would be very, very essential because it would contain all the old information. So maybe
those people that bought those encyclopedias are sitting on a gold mine.
You never know.
You never know.
They're sitting in somebody's storage locker right now in boxes.
Mine. Yeah, mine. You never know about lots of things. I'll tell you, when I see a list of, hey, here's things that you might have that are now worth a whole bunch of money, it's surprising.
Like our Matchbox cars.
Matchbox cars.
Those little orange strips
the Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels.
We were playing with those all the time. I was doing loop-the-loops and all. I'm never thinking that these things would be worth so much money nowadays,
Or baseball and hockey cards and things like that.
G.I. Joe and all that kind of stuff.
When I was in elementary school, we played cards. Mm-hmm. You'd put a card up against the wall and try to knock it down.
Yep.
Or you try to...
With your hockey cards or baseball.
Get as close to the wall as you can. Or try to fit right on top of some of the other cards that are in the pile, and anybody gets right on top gets the whole jackpot there. Well, me and my 3 friends, we were the card kings of John Norquay. I would go with a couple of cards every morning, and I'd come home with my pockets full.
Oh, wow.
I'm very competitive. I just like beating people. I don't know why.
We used to do it with hockey cards.
We had hockey cards, and we had baseball cards, and I remember a lot of that. And so what we did was next door to where I lived on Nanaimo Street, right at 28th, was the family, the Robinsons.
Yep.
And they had a room up in the top of their big 3-story house that was like the attic that had been kind of finished off as a playroom. And they had a sheet of plywood on the walls all the way around, but not the top sheet.
Yeah.
So the stud cavities were all just empty in behind.
Yeah.
Well, every day we'd come home from school, we'd go up into our little play area, we'd empty out our pockets, and we'd stick all these cards
in there.
Oh,
wow. I wonder if they're still there today.
I don't think so. I wouldn't think so, but you never know, right?
Have a Mrs. Robinson?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
I bet you got teased a lot. I guess,
maybe the Robinsons are watching this, although they don't live there anymore.
No way.
So, I thought of going and knocking on the front door, but what would you say? Hey, by the way, you might have millions of dollars in your attic.
You might, yeah. You wouldn't have to do it, tear down their walls nowadays. You can just bring one of those machines that can look right through.
Suck it all. Well, you can look right through.
Look right through, right? Just bring the machine and see if it's worth it. Say, we don't have to damage your walls, but
now we did reach in and grab them and pull out as many as we could at the end of the school year.
Yeah.
And we filled paper bags full of them, the big grocery Safeway or whatever bags, and then took it to school, got up on top of the school stairs and went, scramble! And we gave back a lot of the cards that we had won.
Good, yeah.
But man, oh man, I know there was Mickey Mantle rookie cards in there. This is 1968, 69, 70, something like that.
Like Phil Esposito time.
Oh, there've been lots of those old cards.
Bobby Orr.
Yeah. And who knows? Probably the kids that were coming to school and bringing the cards, they were probably bringing every card they could find in the house to play with and try to win cards.
And I hear
so they might have got into their dad's stash of the old cards, right?
Not even knowing.
And so I think that we probably had some real expensive cars nowadays in there. But it wasn't my place, and we don't still live there anymore, so,
You need a light?
No, I got it in my hand.
There you go.
I'm looking for it in my pocket, but I got it in my hand.
Yeah, and then
That
before
must be
cards, there
good
was
weed.
marbles. We used to have those really big
Yep.
marbles.
Oh, absolutely.
And then in the
There was
fall, we used to
jacks.
get those chestnuts, and we used to put a string through the chestnut
Oh,
with
yeah.
smack.
I didn't know that one.
We never know.
No, didn't
So
do
you
that
know the
one.
big ones that fall in the winter time, right?
We used to collect them. I'd have pockets full of them. We'd throw them at people.
And they're also good for scaring spiders.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, apparently those chestnuts are in the windowsills or spots where spiders come in. They don't like to go there.
Oh.
And it works for Isabel's room.
Wow.
Yeah, I think maybe because the spider thinks it's a bigger spider. Kind of looks it's big. I don't
Maybe.
know. Yeah.
Maybe. You know, he's just got his legs tucked in there or something.
Wives' tale, but it seems to work for her. So
a lot of times there's a lot of truth to those old wives' tales.
That one. Yep.
It's true. So what's going on with CannaMatch.ca?
That's growing. Waiting.
How many members now?
4,121.
Oh, you're getting close to 4,200.
I know. I want to hit 5,000. We'll probably have a party. I would definitely have a party.
4,200 is a good enough excuse to have a party.
Yeah, we need 4,220. 420, 420. But we're 4,120, so we're almost.
You could have 4,242 or 400. No, you can't do that.
You can't do 420. 420.
No, you can't do that.
Not
until you're way up there.
That'd be 420.
Which will happen one day. You'll have 420,000.
Yes.
420 people one day.
That would be nice, eh?
Wouldn't that be something, eh?
That would be an awesome party.
That would be good. Because, I mean, it's global, right?
Yeah, it's global. Yeah, we have a lady from Spain.
Well, I'm sure you have a couple ladies from Spain.
I'm just saying,
I've
seen on the on my admin sheets and stuff.
This show goes global. I get people messaging and saying, watching your show here in Australia and many other places. It's really cool.
And stuff like that, yeah.
So, CannaMatch.ca.
Or in the States, CannaMatch.com. So either one, wherever you can access the internet, just type that in. And
and the more people that join from different areas, then the more people that will be in those different areas to communicate
and I hope
with.
By next year we'll have a commercial.
And it's all about getting together and sharing the weed and sharing the spirit.
Yeah.
So,
now you can do it through the internet. You don't have to find the people in your neighborhood.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. You can, these days, nobody's getting together in person anyway.
Before it, when we used to move into a new neighborhood, you never know who smoked. You'd have to find somebody, and then you'd have to be friends with their friends, and eventually it took so long. Now you just come to CannaMatch and find out who's in your neighborhood and try to make friends.
There you go. We should all join.
We should all join.
Everybody should join, and then we'll all know where all the other stoners are all the time, in case you need something.
Yeah.
Of course, the people don't need a hookup now as much as they used to. They can just come to our store now.
But when you're in a different city, so like let's say you went to San Francisco and you reached out and you found somebody, you don't have to buy something off the corner of a guy or something. You can meet somebody and they can show you where they get the good meds in the town and stuff like that.
I don't know why you mentioned San Francisco.
Well, just because it just came to the top of my head.
But there you go, sparking memories. I got a lot of memories.
Oh yeah, probably. A lot of memories. Yeah. I have none.
Well, let's see.
From there, anyways.
So I was 17 years old. I just turned, I was 17 and a half basically in the summer. School's out. I got my Volkswagen Beetle. I put a new motor in it. I like that. I had a good sound system. Had to have that. And I took out the back seat because I didn't want to stay at mom and dad's any more than I had to. So I was sleeping in the back of the car. Well, I do some MDMA one time. And I go for a drive.
Was that the real MDA?
No, this was...
so it was 90s maybe?
This was MDA. Not MDMA,
so
it was MDA.
So the brown beige powder
that
we put in the Kleenex.
Exactly.
I know, I did it.
So I do some MDA and I go for a drive.
Oh, I love that stuff.
I love driving. I've always loved driving.
Yeah.
And I would just, pick a direction basically and drive.
Just drive.
I decided to go down to the States.
Uh-oh. On MDMA?
On MDA.
And you went across the border?
Across the border.
Fucking wasted.
I woke up in California. I got to Oregon and Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
My buddy Larry Friesen was with his family down in California, San Diego. So I get to Portland. I realize I'm quite a ways from home. I've been driving for a long time.
Yeah. And when you said you woke up, did you wake up from sleep or did you wake up from your high?
Well, from sleep because I did go to sleep at the end of the day, but I kept driving. I decided, hey, why not go to California? I'd never been there, why not? So I kept driving. and I was across the California border in Northern California. I thought I was on a gravel road, that I'd pulled off of the main road onto a gravel road.
If you were.
Went up about a block, or that length, and then there was just trees and bushes all around. So I pulled off the side a little bit and crawled into the back of my car and went to sleep. Well, in the morning I got knocked on the door, and it's the people that live there, and I'm blocking their driveway.
Oh, no.
So I get up and I'm like, holy shit, I'm in California.
Were the people nice to you?
And I drove, yeah, they were nice.
All right.
I drive down to San Francisco.
Wow.
So I'm in San Francisco.
Wow.
And I need some weed.
Yep.
So I go to the main street.
Yeah.
I park my car. I get out of the car. And I got and this woman walks by and I said, hey, any chance you know where I could score some weed? She says, the black dude on the corner over there.
Yeah, dude on the corner.
The black dude on the corner, she says, he'll help you out. So I wander down to the corner, and the first black dude that comes along, I'm like, hey man, I was told maybe you could help me score some weed, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, you got a car?
Yeah, it's Canadian.
Okay. So we go to my car, we get in the car. He takes me to the ghetto.
Yeah.
Like just the ghetto. I mean, there's apartments, there's laundry hanging on strings tied between buildings and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And he wants, he wants $10 for a lid.
Yeah.
So I reach into the back of my car, I pull out my shirt where I got my money in the shirt pocket, and I pull him out $10, I give it to him. And then I'm outside of the car with him there. And he says, wow, that's a really nice watch. Can I see it?
Oh, no.
So I'm like, sure. Take it off. It's a Seiko. I got it. I was actually 18 because I got it for graduation. That's right. I'd put a new motor in the car by that time. I got the car when I was 17. So I think I'm a tough guy. I'm stupid as hell.
Yeah.
Naive. I don't understand.
He took your watch.
Well, no. He's got my watch, and he's like, hey, what would you do if I just took it off right now? I said, I'd chase you down and beat the fuck out of you and I'd take my watch back. What kind of a stupid question is that? I said to him. Yeah. That's exactly what I said to him.
That was
I'm martial arts and boxing, and I thought I was a tough guy. I grew up in Surrey, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, he gives me my watch back, and I put my watch back on. And he says, okay, I'll be 5 minutes. Yeah. And he goes away. And it's like 15, 20 minutes later, and I'm getting a little pissed off. I'm thinking, what the fuck? He stole my $10.
Yeah, because he wants to steal my watch. Now he's maybe got the money.
So I get out of the car and I'm looking around like, what the hell? Yeah. I decide I'll go through the little complex there up on the balconies and see if I can find him.
Oh, well, okay.
So I'm up running around along these little ramps to the different balconies. I'm asking these ladies if they've seen a black guy. Stupid as hell, eh?
Oh.
And then it hits me. Oh, shit. My car. Yeah. So I run back to the car. Well, sure enough, he's been to the car. My money's all gone.
Oh, shit. Really?
Still had my watch, though.
Maybe he was watching the car to get out.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what he was doing. He was waiting to see until I'd come chase after him, and then he goes and gets the money out of the car.
And then just in case you don't know, dumb. $10 for a lid was actually like a lid of a jar. They would fill it up full of weed, and you would buy that for $10. So that's where they got the lid. And we used to have 4-finger ounces.
Yep.
Nobody had scales.
That's what you did. 4 fingers.
4-finger ounces, right?
And it was homegrown.
Baby jar foods were an ounce of oil. What we call RSO now, but we were smoking weed oil.
That's back east.
Yeah,
that's back east. There was a lot of oil back east. There wasn't much here on the west coast, but there was.
Had the beautiful.
We had honey oil. There was red oil.
Yeah, cherry oil.
Yeah,
Did you ever
and there was
any weed?
A lot of hash. Not from that guy. No, I did not get weed. I did not have money. No, I didn't get weed.
Oh, really?
It's a long story. I mean, I ended up going to the Canadian consulate, and they lent me some money.
Oh, wow.
No, they lent me money though.
That story.
I don't think.
I
don't know. It's a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't have weed, but I don't remember where I would have got it from at this point. I mean, I remember the highlights of that, and there was some highlights in there.
Yeah.
But I managed to make it home. I ended up calling my mom and saying, "Hey, Mom, I'm down in San Francisco, and
I got robbed." Saw my Canadian plates.
Yeah. And I paid that money back, I'll tell you, because they really impressed upon me when they lent it to me. that if you don't pay this back,
Yeah.
and you're somewhere other than Canada in the world and you're in trouble, we're not going to help you.
Exactly,
so I paid that back, and I've never been in trouble anywhere else in the world that I needed them.
My kids, when they borrow money, I get them to pay me back all the time. It's like, you know, maybe when I'm rich, I could give them free money, but banks don't give you free money. So if you know, they're not going to charge interest, which a bank would or a credit card would, but as long as they pay back the money, they're good with me. So
yeah, it was all right. I swept out a car a lot. I did a few other things. I made enough money that I could get back home. And I did get back home. So we're actually into Jerry's time.
Yeah.
And Jerry's not here.
No.
And it's really sad. You know, it's been such a rough road for Jerry to travel here. And
I think
he's not very happy about the ruling that happened with Sarah McNeil.
Oh, what happened?
Well, the ruling with respect to the judge's decisions on the unconstitutionality of medical storefronts and the cap on milligrams was really, really good. And there was a lot of really good stuff, over 200 points that were made there. And a lot of it's really, really good. And talking about the lack of access for people that don't have credit cards or that are homeless and all that kind of stuff. But the fellow that was charged, who put the constitutional challenge forward, he's still facing charges, even though those rulings came through. He was not a designated grower. He was supplying to Lisa Kirkman and one other person who did not have a license to have that happen. And so that's still before the courts, and Jerry's still not happy about that. And in fact, I think there's charges with the other ones too.
Growing and then helping people.
No, Jerry wasn't growing.
License, right?
I don't know. We've never talked about that.
Yeah.
But he opened the store, and he had a strict medical criteria for people there.
Yeah.
And, you know, then they busted him. Then, I mean, and that's the story. For those of you who don't know, this is the part of the show that I have where we talk about the medical pursuit of rights, or the pursuit of medical rights with respect to accessing cannabis. It's been going on for a very long time. About 7 years ago, a gentleman named Jerry Martin opened a store, a medical cannabis dispensary in a small town in Saskatchewan. And he ran that store for 4 years. And had 1,000 members of that store. He kept, you know, strict protocols with respect to how Health Canada, you know, he thought. And I mean, there was the Compassion Club here in Vancouver. There was the protocols written for the Compassion Club here by Philippe Lucas and Riel Kapler. Yeah. And those were the protocols that all the different dispensaries were adhering to. And he was doing the same. And in a small town in Saskatchewan, you know, you can imagine he was being very strict about making sure there was a doctor that was giving a confirmation of a diagnosis and all the rest of it. But they still ended up, well, first they sent him a letter, as you know, and saying to stop. Yeah. And as we've covered on this show, if you could put your foot into Jerry's shoes for a minute there, you know, he's a fella who's emotional, who's got 1,000 people that he's helping with their medical conditions, and many of them very serious. And they are very thankful every day. When you run a cannabis dispensary, a medical dispensary, you have a lot of happy customers. Yeah. And so there he is now being told to stop doing that and to fend off these people that would still be coming to him because it's a small town and asking for help. And he's supposed to say, no, I'm sorry, but I can't do that anymore. Ain't going to happen. Can't happen. Wouldn't happen. Nobody with an ounce of compassion would be able to do that at all. And Jerry was the king of compassion.
Yeah, his heart wouldn't let him.
You could not do that. He couldn't. And to ask him to do that is cruel and unusual punishment. Yeah. And what they've put him through in the last 3 years has been cruel and unusual punishment times 10. Yeah. Jerry, being an emotional guy, has ridden this roller coaster, having been denied the ability to help people, being driven out of that town, having all of his possessions seized from him, being labeled a criminal, you know, supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but that's not how it works with cannabis, you know. And so he's been hanging on to this burden and trying to traverse life with that for the past 3+ years. And we've witnessed that journey.
Yes. Yeah, we have.
It's not been fun. I mean, I really... So now, because of this latest decision, he feels that even if he wins his constitutional challenge, which is about having storefront dispensaries, which he's basically won with that ruling, you know, that they're still going to go after him, and that these last 7 years of his life of doing all of this has been for nothing and has been a waste, and that he's going to take a deal. He thinks the deal is 15 months in jail, a $600,000 fine, and he forfeits all of the properties and money that they already seized off him. I mean, he's stating that as if that's the deal. I wish he was here, Jerry. I really wish you were here, man. That's what they're putting on the table. I told him, I just posted it to her. I said, Jerry, if that's the deal, don't take it.
Don't take it.
Don't take it.
No.
Because you'll do way better than that in court, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really want to appeal to him to not do that.
It's hard because that thought is beating up on you for the last 7 years. Here is helping all these people and your heart feels good, and then they take that away and make you feel like shit for 7 years. It plays on you.
3.
It really plays on you a lot.
It has played on him a lot.
Yes, it has.
And that's what he's saying today, is that his mental health is not good because of it.
Yeah.
That he goes into such depths of depression that he, could do things that we would all be very, very upset about. Jerry, you can't do stuff like that. And by the way, anybody else that feels that way, we're not alone in this world.
No.
And there's people that care about everybody, and that's an act that really harms a lot of people. It's not just a way out for somebody who's suffering, but it really does hurt a lot of other people in the process. And in the case of Jerry, when he's in those kind of moods, he doesn't seem to be connected to the memory bank that should be telling him that there's a whole bunch of people like you and me that really care about that guy.
The guilt overwhelms him. And what's going to happen? The not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah, really.
I want him to get his day in court. I want him to kick their ass.
Yeah.
All the rulings are favorable. All of them, and he's not going to lose.
He's got a lot of support.
He's got a lot of support, and there's been a lot of us supporting him, all along here. And I'm going to try to talk him into coming back on the show. And it's a difficult thing. I mean, I told him he's got to do what's best for him.
Yes.
And that is the bottom line. But I think what's best for him is not to take a deal like that.
No, sitting at home, sitting at home would be even worse. At least he gets out. He has a reason to come here on Tuesday. He has a reason to get out. And we all know when you have depression, getting out is one of the most things that really helps you, because you see sunlight, you see smiling faces. Sometimes it'll change your mood, sometimes it don't. But
I think he gets to get it off his chest.
Yeah, and he gets to get it off his chest.
I think he gets to feel
and
like
he gets to see us.
Exactly. How could you not want to do that?
I know.
He's probably watching us.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope so too, right? Because he's going to have lots of support. I bet you people are just commenting. Yeah, all the best for Jerry right there. Yeah, no, it's
How could you not love the guy? How could we not love you, Jerry? I don't know what you know about you that we don't know, but I don't want to know. I don't care. That was then. This is now. It's the future that counts, and where you're coming from right now. And buddy, you've done so much to help so many people. I just want to help you be okay to get through this. You're going to have to get through something either way, right? I mean, if you take the deal, you're going to have to get through what you think 15 months and then getting the criminal record and then not getting your shit back or any compensation for it and not getting your day in court. Man, oh man, Jerry, I mean, you deserve better than that, and I want to see you get better than that.
It's 10 months with good time. So you get, for every 3 days, you get 1 day off. So
I mean, his point was he's been going through this for years, and he could have had it all over with, you know? And I kind of get that.
Yeah. Yeah, and he might not have had all this depression, but
I just want him to have as much fun as he can until he gets to court and not feel these depressed, I mean, I wish he could, avoid the triggers or whatever it is that because he's been good when he's been on the show, and he's good lots of other times. It's an up and down, right?
Yeah, it's the not knowing. It really is.
I know.
It's the not tough. Knowing. It's really tough.
Well, then, if it's the not knowing, then my recommendation would be, which it would be anyway, which is imagine that you know.
Yeah.
Imagine that you know, and imagine that you know that you're kicking their ass. And you're getting a compensation for your stuff.
Yeah.
And we're going to have another medical cannabis dispensary that says Jerry Martin therapeutic cannabinoids or something like that,
And another thing is...
Or whatever you want to do.
His head might be winning, but his heart is winning better because he's doing the mycodelics thing. He's still trying to help people, even though he can't do what he loves to do. Right?
He can't help doing that.
Exactly. He wants
That's why he's so upset with the whole thing. He can't really help people the way he'd like.
He's still out there helping. He's trying to do something good, right?
I don't know what he did, but he said he needed to give back. That he got to a point in his life, he'd lived on the streets here, he'd been involved with hard drugs, And he said he just needed to give back.
Yeah.
And he went back to Whitewood, you know, where he had roots there. And he gave back, and he's been giving back ever since. I'm not sure what he's given back for, but he's given back a lot, and he's driven to do that. And so, you know, this is not allowing him, because he's under such scrutiny that, you know, he can't just be himself. And I do get all of that. But the other thing is that we broadcast this show, and anybody gets to watch it. Mm-hmm. And now there's a new prosecutor on the case, and maybe he gives a shit what Jerry has to say. Yeah. Maybe he wants to try to catch Jerry in something, and you know, see if. And so he's probably watching the show to see if Jerry says something he shouldn't, or if he can get some dirt on him or whatever. Yeah. But instead of that, what he gets is an earful of just how wrong this is. Yep. How good a man that was, and that is, and that they should stop going after him. That there was no desire to hurt anybody. There was no victim anywhere. No. So no actus rea, no mens rea, a huge track record of helping people. Yeah. Why the hell do they think, this prosecutor think, that Canadian taxpayers want to spend money to pay his fucking salary to come after this guy? Because we don't. That law, right? You know? Wrote the law, Oh, man. So I'm really hoping that people like that are watching and hearing what we have to say here, because we're just good Canadians, and we're saying it like it is, and we speak for a lot of people. We want to help, and we don't want this guy harmed with our tax dollars for what crime he never committed, because he never hurt nobody. There never was a crime with respect to having his cannabis dispensary and helping the people that he helped. So yeah, you think there's a crime here? There's no crime here. You think you're doing something good when you're busting cannabis people? No. That's holy shit. That's the crime. Yeah. That's the crime. Trying
to keep us not
Look it up. Yeah. You know what you're doing. You're purposely harming people who never hurt anybody. You should know better. But they don't care, you know. They just want to get a salary. They're all part of a very corrupt system. Somebody
wrote a law, and they work for that law, and they don't give a fuck. Excuse me.
Oh, you can swear on this show. I know my Auntie Barbie probably watches. Hi, Barbie. We love you. I love you. And, we try to be good people here, but every once in a while we swear because it's the right thing to do. And we're mad at people that are hurting other people. And I think that's right in line with my Auntie Barbie and other people with good Christian hearts, feel about things too. I had a good chat with my mom the other day for the millionth time. She's my mom. Yeah. But again, I gave her a little. My mom today too. Gave her a little Bible study. Because, I've been telling her what we're doing here. We're helping people with cannabinoids. Yeah. This is the greatest plant that was ever created.
And what's your mom say?
Well, she said she'd go and read it.
Oh, good.
Because in the first page of the Bible, on that first page, in the first chapter, not very far down, it's going to tell you about God creating things, and he created the seed-bearing herbs.
Yeah, everything that you need is on this earth for you.
And when he created the seed-bearing herbs, according to Scripture, he looked upon them and decided that they were very good, and said right there that they are for everybody. Yep. So how people think they can prohibit? It's right there in the Bible.
Yeah. So. And when the government preaches in God we trust, right? In their courthouses and stuff like that, right? But yet, in the Bible, you just said that, but they say we can't have this plant.
I don't like the God they trust.
No, I know, right?
Well, I have a guest coming on, and that's kind of the Martin Medical moment.
Yeah, and extended.
We extend everything.
That's great.
Thanks,
see you next week.
We'll see you next week. I hope Jerry's back.
Yes, me too. Send lots of love. If you got Jerry on your friends list, tag him right now with a heart beside it. Let him know that we were talking about him, we care about him, and we want him back. We'll see you next week.
Exactly.
Take care.
The continuing saga.
Yes.
So.
Go right ahead. Sir, are you familiar with 2015 Cannabis Day at the Art Gallery? You remember that day, sir? What? You remember 2015 at the Art Gallery, sir? Maybe you're not aware of that, but you want a repeat of that? Really? Oh my God. No, that's fine. Yeah, because it's a protection racket. You're using our dollars to pay your salaries so you can run a protection racket.
What are they saying?
Dealers?
They say it's legal to sell. I'm like, I'm not selling
We're not selling, yeah.
That's what I said. Point blank. I'm not selling shit. I'm
going to follow this around.
I went to
time the cannabis
court and the judge said as long as you have 1 ounce per adult at the table, that it's 100% okay.
How are you going to sleep tonight? The heroin addicts are dying because they can't get peace.
It's his video right now. It's on live.
Nothing wrong with that. He said, I don't want to see anymore. He told the police officer.
Didn't you see the ruling in Alberta yesterday?
And I talked to you.
Did you get the ruling in Alberta yesterday?
Right now, right? So my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, they all fought in this this country's military for our rights to speak our minds, to go where we wish, and do what we, this is a form of protest, right? So in civil disobedience, we have the right to a civil
I get that. I'm just telling you it's illegal, right?
You're going to stick the other boys on us. If you hadn't have seen us here, you would have a problem. We're fighting the jurisprudence of the law.
So, based off the jurisprudence of the law, the psychology of law, correct? We have the right to fight for our rights as citizens and
Have the right, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly.
And if we're not hurting anybody, you have no business interfering with us. Find us a victim.
your job is to see the jurisprudence of the law.
That's one thing. You're also telling us. We pay your salary and you're telling us.
Jurisprudence of the law states that
You're going to incite a riot here. That's what he wants to do. This is a peaceful place. You bring in your voice and incite a riot here, and we're going to charge you with doing that.
It is against the law, yes. And we are open
The law's an ass.
to prove that in protest because it is civil act of disobedience against unjust law. So if you guys come and arrest us, that is a breach of the Civil Rights Act. We can sue you.
That's what I'm saying. We've been through this. Why would you want to go through this
I
again?
told you that it was illegal to do what you're doing.
And I've been doing this for years, and I've never been charged for
We
it.
got 20 years of doing this every July 1st.
Okay?
Thank
You
you.
know?
Do you understand?
There's real crimes going on. You know, there's actual people harming other people. We're trying to help people get off of opioids. There's an opioid pandemic, and we're helping people get off of opioids, and you want to interfere with that. Like, I don't understand your mentality. Don't you get it? Like, we're not hurting people. There's no victims. There's no talk to anybody who thinks that it's a crime to have something to do with cannabis.
Cop watch
Vancouver in the crime actually is. It's when you hurt somebody on purpose in a significant way.
If anybody wants to
helping them
later,
get weed to
just
get off of
Google
opioids.
civil act of disobedience against an unjust law. It'll explain exactly what it is. If there's a law that impeaches your civil rights or impeaches your medical or health conditions, you have the right to break that law. And we are here to help people do that.
Yep.
No, we're not breaking a law, committing crimes where we're hurting anybody. We're trying to give easy access to medicine to the proper people who need it.
Okay.
Welcome back. Yeah, that was fun. Looking back on it, it kind of made the day. It was a rainy day there, and to have them come and decide that they were going to try to interfere. It was actually just the one guy. And actually, I've talked to him a number of times before. He's been in poking his nose around, threatening people at other little pop-ups that we've had, the Robson Square Market and Cannabis Days in the past. So I know him. He knows me. He should not be there. With what they did in 2015, and if anybody doesn't know, you can probably find it on YouTube. But in 2015, the VPD decided that they were going to try to stop us from having Cannabis Day at the art gallery. It had just gotten to be too big and too popular, and it was too embarrassing for all the people that wanted to maintain prohibition. And they ended up arresting me in a horrible fashion with about 30 cops that came in, and there was 6 of us or 5 of us arrested that day. They almost killed me, and that's not a lie. That's not even an exaggeration. And it was just really horrific what happened. And the VPD's had their tails between their legs ever since. They've come to every one of our Cannabis Day protest rallies ever since, and said to us quite clearly that they're just there to keep the peace and that we have nothing to worry about. But this year, this guy, after all these years, decides that he's going to come and threaten us and try to scare us and intimidate us I guess maybe he's getting a kick down from one of the LPs or something like that. Maybe they give him a deal. I don't know what it is, but anyway, he's got a bit of a hard on for hassling the people that are just trying to help people get off of opioids and provide proper access to people in this day and age where they've shut down all the medical dispensaries, and now we're back. But that's where we were at. That's where we have been at for a while. And I was really upset that he was there. I was really upset that he would come back with that kind of an attitude after what happened in 2015. It's too soon. It's way too soon. So anyway, on my show today, you can probably see that I'm sitting here with Chris Livingston. For those of you familiar with the show, this is, I think, your third appearance on the main part of the show.
Third time.
Third time, yeah. Well, nobody's done three. It's first time for three.
It's a hat trick.
Hat trick, yeah, for sure. Yeah, even in the days of no hockey, although it's coming up, we think, but maybe, who knows. Hockey's not what we're going to talk about. I need some of this.
Great. Thanks for inviting me on the show, Neil.
So happy to have you all the time. You're doing so much stuff all the time. Chris has been like a living legend on the downtown east side here for 20 years or more, and involved in all the different major things that have happened here. And down on the downtown east side of Vancouver is where so much is learned about how to deal with people that have issues of poverty and homelessness and substance misuse and so many other things. And the way that our city hall has interacted with the people that are suffering, and we get a larger percentage down here in the west coast of Canada than any other parts of Canada. In our downtown east side is where a lot of people end up coming from other places in Canada. The weather supports it better here. There are a lot of services here to help people, and so there is a large population down here. And how they interact with the police and how the governments deal with them and all of that, and we've established really good things here. And when I say we, I mean Chris, and he's been at the forefront of helping to establish organizations like VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, which is an advocacy group for these people, for the Western Aboriginal Harm Reduction Society, which speaks to the largest population that we have down here, and helps them with so many different issues. And so anyway, Chris, I don't know where to stop with the introduction. You've just been doing so much for so long. I'm really happy that you're here. You've been an integral part of my journey on the downtown east side. I've been here since 2005, when, because of Chris and his partner Suk Lee, we got ourselves a storefront for what we were doing with activism back then. That became Vancouver's second dispensary. We were a non-medical dispensary. We used a model where adults that had taken our drug war history walking tour, which was very educational, very informative, that we felt that with that proper information, an adult could make the right choice about whether or not to access cannabis for their needs and wants. And then we made it available to them, and we were wanting to take that to the Supreme Court of Canada. But that's a whole other story for another day. That didn't happen, but the Herb School happened, and for 3.5 years we were there helping people get access here on the downtown east side. And Chris had a lot to do with that, and he's had a lot to do with our dispensary here, and helping us get a space to rent and other things like that, and always working behind the scenes and doing stuff. So, what's the thing you're doing most right now, I guess?
So maybe I should start talking just so that you can get a breather in there.
Good idea. So, I'll have a puff.
So again, thanks for inviting me, and I'd also just like to acknowledge that I'm on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh Nations as an uninvited guest. But I do live and work in the downtown east side of Vancouver, and I just stepping into your conversation earlier about the VPD, but they have done something good. So recently they've hired me. So I work for the Vancouver Aboriginal Community Policing Center as a mental health worker.
Right, and you have a badge. You showed me the badge.
Yeah, so it's a ceremony. It's just a show badge. It's not real. Yeah, but it was a fabric.
You didn't
badge.
Take police training.
Yeah, so I did get a fabric badge from the police chief.
And you're going to open up a community policing office,
Yeah.
just 2 storefronts up from us,
So,
which is really, really cool.
So that's why I was thinking maybe Neil has created this spot here just to slow me down, so that people are able to get a hold of me.
Is that what's happened?
I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, you don't stay still very long, do you?
Already people are coming and meetings have happened. They've given away meals in front of the place, and we haven't.
I saw that going on today.
We haven't even finished painting the place yet.
And the paint looks beautiful, by the way. We got our red walls out here. He's got the same red wall going 2 doors up, so that's awesome.
Yeah. So currently I do work outreach, and I work with peers in the downtown east side, Aboriginal Front Door, the Western Aboriginal Harm Reduction Society, Culture Saves Lives, and now community policing.
So what's Aboriginal Front Door?
So the Aboriginal Front Door is right at just off of Main and Hastings. It's a place where since COVID has hit, they've been primarily operating as a resource place.
Right.
So they're giving away meals and water, masks, hygiene kits. They've got a new information project as well, a kiosk.
Right.
System.
Do they assist people in finding homes or finding programs that'll help them and other things as well?
Yes, they do. So they do have one staff person that's dedicated to helping people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then, well, so before pre-COVID, they had drum groups, and they do bannock and
I see.
all kinds of meals, arts and crafts.
Do they outreach or from their offices? Or both?
From their office. Yeah.
See. Yeah. And so Western Aboriginal Harm Reduction Society, tell us about that.
So the Western Aboriginal Harm Reduction Society is a group of current or former illicit drug or alcohol users.
Indigenous, they need to be.
Yeah, and Indigenous, yes. So they have about 350 members. They do support group meetings, sharing circles, and the sharing circles are done with elders. We have a language group as well. We do outreach into the alleys,
cleaning up
parks,
needles and things like that.
Yes, we've also had cleaning crews, cleaning parks, and like Tent City we were working at.
So when you were at Oppenheimer Park, that was a WARS project?
Yes.
You guys did a great job.
Yeah, it was clean for a while, but I mean, homeless.
Well, for the last month or so, whatever. When you guys got the job of going in there, it was just a huge difference. When you drive by before that, and it was quite a mess. And then it was just such a stark difference that, the tents were spaced. And the spaces in between the tents were all clean, and you could see everything everywhere. It was much, much, much better for sure. Then, so you were a part of transitioning those people from Oppenheimer Park to housing, and also, those that didn't want housing or housing wouldn't work for them.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting process. So everybody was kind of slow, as everybody probably knows, but when there's things such as tent cities, those communities are made up of different people. They're made up of activists, they're made up of homeless people, they're made up of Aboriginal people or First Nations people, they're made up of substance users such as alcohol or fentanyl users or slide. So there's kind of all these overlapping populations that are within these things.
Right.
So WARS is just one of those other groups that are kind of in there to try and create public good, and they're trying to create,
because there'd be conflict between some of those groups, and there's issues that would arise for sure.
Yeah.
And so you guys are like kind of the mediators, and you can come in. You've got a lot of experience in these types of things.
We have a lot of street friends, and we're pretty comfortable. So we're not scared we don't have any fear when we're picking up garbage or doing outreach.
And you do things in a way that's not charged emotionally for the most part. You can deal logically and reasonably, and because a lot of times there's those kind of charges going on when people are in conflict with each other.
Yeah.
And to bring in a sense of reason and calm is a good thing.
Not only that, so everybody's kind of, Well, that as well, but there's these multiple layers of trauma. There's
For
all
sure.
kinds of trauma that people are subjected to, or they call it toxic stress.
Right. By the system.
Yeah. So and yeah, colonial systems create toxic stress.
that,
But
that has proven to be the case so
yeah,
far.
yeah, prohibition, residential schools,
Overtaxation,
reservations, treaties, all of these things have gaps in them, eh?
yeah, and
Gaps
bylaws.
gaps and biases.
Lots of bylaws that come along, specifically to protect the neighborhood, but harm the people that are in real need there. That have so many times not been the right thing to do. That's where Vandu has done a lot of advocating for things like that as well. Where they were ticketing people for all kinds of different things, for jaywalking or for loitering or for just stupid, and they're ticketing people who have no means to pay, and so then you don't pay your ticket. Well, now that's a criminal offense. So now and it's just so bad, such bad cycles where people are making money along the way, like the cop's making money for what he's doing, and the court clerk makes money for what they're doing, and everybody's making money on this poor individual who just got a jaywalking ticket where nobody got harmed. Maybe the car had to slow down, probably not. Probably there was no car because it was just like there's no car. Why would you walk up to the crosswalk and cross? There's no fucking car. Who owns this property we live on? It's hard to say. But if you're not interfering with the traffic or putting your life or other people's lives at risk, then it's debatable whether that should be, a crime or penalized for that. We've got this system where it's designed where they come up with a law like that because somebody gets harmed by a car because they don't pay attention and the car's not paying attention or they're blah, blah, blah. Right? So now they come up with the law. Well, now you can't do that because this could happen. But the vast majority of times, it doesn't happen. A human being got their senses amongst them. The driver's got their senses amongst them. You can cross, without any danger to anybody. And it shouldn't be some public servant with a uniform and a badge's business if nobody was harmed and nothing is threatened. And especially
so here's the thing. I hear what you're saying about all what and
that's just a small example.
I'm not one to really diss all of those other people. But what's happening in Vancouver and BC and Canada right now? So the FNHA, First Nations Health Authority, just has come out with a statement about the newest overdose statistics.
Right.
So First Nations people are overrepresented in these numbers.
Do you know the numbers?
As always, but since COVID hit in the last 2 months, there's been a huge spike. So it's kind of interesting, it's not really interesting. It's sad. So usually for such things as homelessness, people band together, they create tent cities, they create homelessness encampments so that they could collectively better protect themselves and be healthy. But COVID means that people can't stay together, right?
Yeah.
People have to be distanced.
They took a number of those people at Oppenheimer Park, they put them into housing where they had to isolate. And there was a lot of deaths amongst those people from overdoses because they were using alone.
Well, I wouldn't say specifically those people, but I do like.
There was deaths.
But what we do know is that since COVID hit, in BC housing, they have, or most places have not allowed places open for guests.
Mm-hmm.
So if BC Housing or like PHS Community Services Society keep their doors closed and SROs keep their doors closed to guests, then there's no way that people can use and stay safe.
Exactly.
So it shouldn't be a surprise that the bodies are going to keep on stacking up unless they open those doors now.
Yeah.
And
the poison drug supply became even more poisoned because of the COVID thing, with borders closed and other issues with that.
Yes.
The whole the pandemic that we've been dealing with here for the last few years has gotten considerably worse because of the COVID. Mm-hmm. From what we've seen, like the numbers are going up instead of they were coming down. And now they're back up again and going up. And because of exactly what you're saying.
And also, so when COVID hit as well, the capacity for any place, any business, any nonprofit society was kind of chopped in half.
Sure was.
Most
of the doors
you
were
know,
closed.
most people were not allowed to come out to work.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I worked through the whole crisis
I know, yeah.
as an outreach worker.
And we kept the CSP going all through
and
it.
you guys kept going as well.
Yeah.
But so we know that. So basically, the access and the flow of people and services is dramatically affected.
Yeah.
Everything is thicker. You can't serve as many people.
Yeah.
You can't let people in. So where are the people? The people are sitting outside. The people have no.
And their mental health is compromised because there's so much fear going on now, and because of all these things are happening. This is a vulnerable population of people who get triggered pretty easily and are quite susceptible to things that cause fear. And here we're now in a very, very fear-based society with all of this stuff going on. People wearing masks all over the place still, and lots of that. So it's just like you say, it's layer over layer of different compromising problems going on.
Yeah, so we've got the CERB cash.
Right.
So people in the downtown east side are getting this $2,000. So what are they doing with that $2,000?
Or the $300 added to their wealth.
Or the $300 added on.
So of course what they're doing with it, what they always do with it.
Or the 60 scoop money, which is a huge amount of money. So all of these things without planning or some sort of structure, then they can become negative health.
Yeah, negative health meaning they can die.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And it's exactly true.
Yeah. So but more about the space next door. So that's I think it's 161.
Yes, I think it is.
161 East
We're at 157
Cordova.
here. Yeah.
Yes. And so I have a new information project that I'm working with through with Vancouver Aboriginal Community Policing.
Right.
And it's funded from Indigenous Services Canada.
Right.
And the COVID response for communities. So what we're going to be doing is extending the outreach project. So
you're going to be policing our store and making sure we don't have too many people in here. I thought it was a good thing having you guys up there.
I'll definitely be counting, but what we'll be doing.
As long as you're also counting the daily new case numbers, because they don't show that there's any issues here.
So we'll have a peer volunteer program. We'll have information, a computer bank, hopefully. And we'll work to connect people to the existing services, people to communities.
Right.
So it was about that disconnection before that I've talked about in the past. So we want to try and connect people to families or to kind of new lives.
Well, that's a good service for sure. Very needed here. With we see so many people that are alone and disconnected from their families. I see people looking for family members down here on a regular basis.
And it's kind of, so we've had all this extra effort from government to support people financially during these crises.
Right.
And so are you and is society ready to see it go back to the way that it was? Are you
They're
ready?
talking about a daily living wage now. There's a lot of momentum for that. And
so
that would help, I think.
There's talk about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like back at the cannabis place, the herbs school back then.
School in the days.
That was still years away from legalization.
Yeah.
And so that's the same sort of perspective here, eh?
Right.
So
yeah.
So we'll have volunteers doing stuff, outreach. So we won't be just here. We'll be out in 10 cities. We'll be in the streets. We might be able to do some support group meetings.
Right on. And you mentioned another group that you're working with to do with culture?
Well, all of the groups that I work with, they're all about creating culture.
But wasn't there a specific group that had that in its title that you said when I asked you and you said you were
possibly
the Aboriginal Front Door? There was wars.
Culture Saves Lives.
Culture Saves Lives. That's what you said. What is that one about?
So they're down on Carroll and Hastings, and they have drum groups, and they've been doing coffee and meals, I believe, and I think they have online stuff going every
So
now
are
and
they
then.
trying to preserve the culture of the indigenous people? That,
Yes.
you know,
Yes. They're much like Wars, and we're all somewhat similar.
there's an overlap in it for a lot of that.
Well, not so much as an overlap as we become the web or the culture web. Eh? So there's a culture web that we're trying to create that designed to kind of capture people that are not
So
connected.
do they become
and
members
connect
then?
Yes.
So it's a membership.
Yeah,
driven
every
thing.
one of those groups are membership based.
Right. How many members are in Wars now?
About 350, I think.
350.
So there's also a generalization. So you can think about active members versus clients, or it's all about perspective. We've had over the years, so we've been operating since 2003. So we've had a lot of support group meetings over the years. So years ago we were at 350. So
right.
By now we've got to be at least 600-700
that have come
people.
That are still,
and we don't track people. People come and go,
right?
And people pass away, and overdoses, come HIV, claims people. Yeah. Sometimes they get to go home. Sometimes they get to clean up and get better.
Right.
It's sort
of there are a number of success stories of people that have been helped, for sure.
Yes, there's a few, and that's what we're
trying to help.
That's what we all aim to do, right?
Right.
So,
we're doing good work here with the CSP. The Cannabis Substitution Program provides free high-dose edibles to people that qualify financially, and with the attempt to try to get them out of these cycles of abuse that are going on here, the misuse of other substances and things like that. And so we've been able to reach 200 members now, and we've had to cap it, and that's very unfortunate because there's so many more that we really should be able to help with what we're doing here. But right now we have to say, well, you got to wait and see, and maybe government will help us. Maybe if we get some more donations or whatever, then we can increase what we're doing. But we're giving out over 80,000 milligrams every 4 days now to the members that we have here. There's just so much more that needs to be done. There was nothing back in the day. I mean, I remember when we opened the herb school, this was a lost neighborhood in that respect, and since then so much has happened. There was the sit-in at the Woodwards building a long time ago. Remember that? You were there? I mean, how much has changed since then? I mean, what were the goals of that particular occupation?
You mean when I lived at the Woodwards
for
7 months?
Yeah. That was quite the occupation for sure.
Yeah. Well, that was the start of wars.
Yeah.
And when I was homeless, and then I became involved with Vandu and their support group meetings. They had the Housing Action Committee.
So how much has changed since then with respect to, the ability for people to get housing, for the government to help, and the things that you were looking for?
Things have gotten better. The things I've noticed about this general street population is that things have become more dire. And
just in the last few months, you mean?
Well, over the past few years.
Last few years.
So if we think about, I'm just thinking about that, it's all about the access, and so prohibition and access driven, how it drives you all the way from substances that are not so harmful through the spectrum to fentanyl and crystal meth and alcoholism and the more negative things.
It's a great special effect we got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's just people in pain that have come down this road, and they're going to get what it is that they need, and because of prohibition, the government is insisting that their access is through guys on street corners and in alleyways and in basement suites that are applying all of these things to people because there's no other way that they can get what they need. So it's an all prohibition driven pandemic.
So if you think about yourself as like a First Nations person or a person coming from small town Canada to Vancouver. So in small town Canada or in rural reserves, you'll likely have grown up and you'll have some sort of experience with cannabis. You'll have some experience with drinking beer. Your parents will tell you that doing drugs is bad. They'll tell you that Santa Claus is real. but so when you get here to the city, you're a pot smoker, you're a drinker, you come here and say your housing falls through. So you're ended up walking the streets of Vancouver. So what's going on in Vancouver?
You're probably going to get traumatized at some point or other.
You're going to see all the kinds of substances that we mentioned before: fentanyl, crack, slide, jib, heroin. So like I said, that cycle created the drive all the way from through heroin, through methadone to fentanyl now, right?
Yeah.
And just like those people that were smoking cocaine or doing rails or whatever, or shooting cocaine, or they move on to crystal meth because crystal meth is half the price and it is available.
Yeah.
And so it's all about access, eh?
Yeah.
So the access drives people to substances that are more harmful.
And how much does trauma play a role in that? I mean, there's a despair.
So people medicate to cover up that trauma.
Right.
For me, I consider it. You can consider it recreation if you want, but in the reality is maybe I am covering unrecognized trauma or the colonial.
Yeah, and not just covering, but compensating.
Yeah.
And that's why there's such a drive to have something, be it beer or be it, like I said, a whole cycle of different drugs. There's a drive to do them and to find them because there's a compensation going on for the despair that people are feeling or the trauma that they're feeling or how their life seems to be going. I mean, if they, like you say, in many cases they lose their housing and they end up, and they're coming from a small town. They're going to be tested here. There's going to be, they're going to run into three guys, walking down the street who are going to size them up and test them. And sometimes they're going to get robbed.
In 2008 or 2009, there was an NGO forum. It was the
United Nations one?
The United Nations
at
NGO forum.
Yeah.
And so at that forum, that's where Suk and I, we actually got to attend, and what we said is that we legalized, and that was way ahead of time. And coming from
I was there.
Coming from that time to this time now, and I see what the cannabis group does, and what I had always hoped was these things like rosin and shatter, if we can open up access to those things for people that are on the street, because they're high dose. And
well, we've got rosin and shatter here for $25 a gram. That's the best we can do at this point. It's about a third or considerably less than you'll find the same quality elsewhere. But we've got keef for $3 a gram,
so that's
which is really accessible, right?
So your model, you're just starting now. You've been giving out medicine for 3 years,
3.5 years now,
and now you're giving out even more THC to a select amount
to
of
200.
So that's what we need, is to increase that model.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
this is
there's such a demand. We can't meet the demand. We've been here 4 weeks, and now we're turning people away.
So why not? So the city of Vancouver, why not put a donation box in each place?
In each dispensary that's out there,
just, hey
not
guys,
dispensary, but government store.
It's about time that you guys help too.
The city said they would support it. They said they'd support low barrier access, and it can't get any more low barrier than what we're doing here.
I mean, growers are supporting, activists are supporting, community organizers are supporting.
Yeah, where's the government? We're doing their job.
The people that are on the ground that are getting the medicine are supporting, and we do need more support to get more medicine.
We need more capacity
so that you never have to turn people away.
I know.
So it's as watching what happened over at Vandu compared to what here, I don't like seeing people turned away. I think that if we can somehow mitigate that,
we turned away people sometimes at Vandu. If we would eventually run out to most of the time we had people coming through a second time, but the bag that we gave out was not substantial, right? It was 3, 4, maybe 5 different edibles, a joint. Here they get like 420 milligrams worth every 4 days, so it's about double what we were giving out in total before.
So, and here's the systemic problem. So when I came on and started talking with you, we decided that we would try and incorporate a nonprofit society that would further research, that would further getting low to no cost medicine, that would further creating education materials, that would get people together, that would record how it helps them get better. And so we did that. So
that's exactly right. That's exactly what we're doing.
So we did that, and we
Serious
called
Hope
it the
Society.
Serious Hope Society.
Yeah.
And then we went to the bank to get a bank account.
Yeah.
And so so maybe you can talk about that.
Was it
or mention
what
it?
Was it the Bank of Montreal we went to, and they wanted $7,000 as a non-refundable investigation fee for them to look into us to see what it was we were going to do and whether or not they would then allow us to have a bank account. And of course, what we wanted to do is what we're doing, which is to not be part of the government system, although we'd like to have the government authorize us to do what we're doing here. They certainly should. But, we're providing cannabinoids for people that is contrary to the Cannabis Act. And so there's no way that we would have gotten that approval. It would have been $7,000 that we just handed them for nothing. They would have quickly come back and said, oh, no, you can't sell cannabis to people if you're not got a provincial permit. So.
And since then, we've gone to Van City as well. So basically, this is a society emergency. What does a society do? I mean, I work on projects and grant writing and creating plans and creating community impact. But what happens if I get you a grant, or if we write a grant proposal and some government entity says yes and gives you a $10,000 check or a $20,000 check because you've got an awesome plan
and we can't cash it?
And what are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do. I mean,
that's what
cash
I'm
it personally, I guess, if I can. But
there's no. That's what I'm saying.
It's probably not an option.
Do we get all the board directors and we all go hang out at Money Mart and try and cash a check at Money Mart?
See which one of us can actually, cash a check like that. Maybe. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just that is going to be a big stumbling block for us coming up.
So this is a system problem and one of those colonial things.
So what do we do as a societal emergency at this point? Yeah. We're coming right up down the road at that point.
So when I say society, I'm putting it on the people and society. It's the people that are watching and the membership of the CSP, the board, the directors, and communities. Right. Because it's not just this society.
It is the overall society.
It affects everybody
in society.
Everybody.
Right. Agreed.
So how do we overcome this hurdle? Because clearly we're not breaking the law. Clearly this is all about public good. It's all about reducing harms. It's about creating employment for street level people.
It's all win-win everywhere.
That's all I've seen is
everybody's a winner with what we're doing. There's no, except the government stores, and that's the only ones that are going to be harmed by this, is because their prices are too high, and they need to come down. And so
you may have them on board too. Maybe,
I would like to.
Maybe they agree. Maybe they think the plastic is outrageous. Maybe they think the prices are outrageous.
Oh, sure. Some of the store owners,
I mean,
absolutely, they feel all of that. Yes.
I mean,
yes. And I'm hoping that they lobby the government in some way to reduce all of that and improve all of that, and substantially, like severely, right? Because I mean, the prices are so ridiculous there. They should be completely the opposite. We thought ending prohibition was supposed to bring the price down. Prohibition prices were $10 a gram. They're asking for double that for some of the swag they think they got. You should see the showrooms of these places that they have to have. Nobody here could go to those places.
I went
not every day,
and I mean, nobody can afford to pay what, $35 a DV.
It's just ridiculous. It's a really cruel joke on any cannabis consumer. The government program of legalization is a cruel joke on the whole cannabis community, but it's an absolute nightmare for the medical user and the daily user, the people that use it every day, and the people that are using it for medical conditions. This government legalization is an absolute horrific nightmare. Holy smokes, man. I mean,
maybe there should be an overall, like a brown bag campaign or something. Right?
Well, that's what we're doing here. You get your regular, plastic or Ziploc baggie or in a paper bag, but that's the way it should be. That's the way it's always been done. There's no need for a bunch of packaging with a bunch of warnings on it. That's just silly as hell. They don't put warnings on potatoes. Eat 12 of those raw and you could kill yourself, but they don't put a warning on them. You can't kill yourself with cannabis no matter how hard you try. And some of the concentrates and edibles, absolutely you should, warn people, and we do here, that, we make sure everybody knows what they're doing and what they're getting, because an edible, you can eat too much and then you shouldn't be driving, and, and you can eat too much and not feel good. But it's not going to kill you like some of these other products. You can go to a liquor store and buy, 40 pounders of vodka and whiskey and all these other harmful. You can go buy cigarettes. They have very little redeeming value. They kill, several million people. Human beings die because of smoking cigarettes every year. They're available in every corner store, every gas station, every drug store, pretty much. I mean, this is a crazy, mixed up, upside down, hypocritical world we're living in here. And the real victims are all of us, because this stuff, cannabis, that is so beneficial to people in so many ways, is the one that they use the criminal law to try to prohibit and restrict to protect the interests of all those other alcohol, pharmaceutical, cigarette interests. It's just stupid as hell.
So you actually bring up a good point, and
I thought it was a good point.
And one point that I also, and this is also congruent with First Nations people, and I would hope the Vancouver Aboriginal community policing. It's all about justice and trying to equalize some of the imbalances that have happened, right?
Right.
So the imbalances of disconnection, the imbalances of not being connected into the economy, the imbalances of being disproportionately affected by any kind of negative health burden.
Right.
Prisons, disease, addiction, alcoholism, child protection, all of these things, right?
I heard our former justice minister say it quite well, that there are many paths that are taken upon, and some of those paths need correcting, and that she felt she was the corrector of the paths. And I think that kind of describes it as well, that really we've gone down some bad paths here, and we need to be correcting all of that.
So that's sort of what I can sort of envision happening next door. So you see, we started painting it, and we're going to get some nice office furniture in there, and computer banks, and that's what I was hoping, that it could be a mix of perhaps we can do traditional First Nations medicines. So all the different kinds of sage, bare root, cedar things, tobacco.
I see.
All the kinds of medicines that a First Nations person
would complement what we're doing here quite well.
Yeah, and I see that whole, and we would use those to create employment and sustaining the project.
Right.
And the group.
And also, there's you know, a lot of talk these days about the beneficial value of the hallucinogens and the other plant medicines, and a lot of that really is about what's going on here and in this community as well, because it deals with addiction, it deals with depression and anxiety and those types of issues, or those substances have that sort of power for people. So it would be wonderful to see, you know, all of these things that we're doing here with what you're talking about there with the other plant medicines and the hallucinogens also be part of a healing of this particular neighborhood and maybe a healing of the entire nation, you know.
So I always, because I wear a lot of different hats, so I always have to be careful.
You're not even wearing any hat right
because
now.
we don't want to step on any toes.
Well, I mean, it's always been like that, right? There's a lot of different concerns to be considered in all of these different things, and you know, there's many stakeholders that sometimes you don't even understand what it is that their position is, and a lot of times until they voice it and vocalize it, that you know, if this happens, then this could happen. There's a lot to be considered in juggling the different layers of things that are going on here, for sure. So, what have been some of your successes that make you most proud of what we've accomplished here over all this time?
Well, I definitely like there's actually that there's a storefront running again.
Oh, our herb school, yeah. Well, that's for sure.
Successes. So I left. As you remember, so I've been back for a year or so now.
More than a year.
A year and a bit. I got back in January. But while I was gone,
that's a year and a half.
So this is an idea. So I'm thinking about homelessness, and I'm thinking about equity and people that are all across Canada, and I'm thinking about homelessness and people that are on income assistance and people that are maybe early on in their life. Why not create a new First Nations land authority and just get rid of the Crown authorities? So the BC land assessments, federal Crown land, those
right.
Both of those departments should be Indigenous.
Right.
It's time to stop selling off Canada to foreign interests and to whoever's got money. Right? Just because you have money doesn't mean you have the best interests of Canada's people or their resources at heart.
Right.
And as you know,
that's been a problem for a while.
Companies come in and they exploit everything.
Yeah.
And
that's been a problem for a while.
And to me, it's sort of built on an illusion that it's. They're selling land, they're selling resources. It's up for.
I agree. It's probably long overdue to really have a good assessment of what the hell we think Crown land and federal land is. You know.
So it's gotten quiet since COVID and since pipeline, but reconciliation hasn't gone away.
Right.
And reconciliation hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Reconciliation is way more than just acknowledging where you are. It's about changing the system to
especially
make it
where
more
we
equitable.
Are in this time in history right now, where we're revisiting a lot of these different these things. That to me is one of the more obvious ones, is the plight of the Indigenous people and the First Nations people here. And so I think I like that idea. I wish I was in charge.
Yes.
We'd do things differently if we were in charge. All we can do is talk about it and do things to work towards it and try to influence the influencers. But there's been a lot wrong for a long time, and it's time we address these things. The government after government comes in, and lots of times they come in on a platform of we're going to do this and we're going to get it right and blah blah blah, and they get all the votes because of it, and then they really don't do anything. There's been very little movement on the whole file for a long time, and with the Department of Indian Affairs and the way that they've run things, there's been a lot of problems for a long time. And it really hasn't changed much.
Yeah, and technically I'm just thinking about, I'm looking at your camera and I'm thinking, this has all been moved by you guys. It's the public that's gotten together to do 420. It's the public that says that cannabis is okay and that it's not harmful, and it's the public that's going to have the power to change anything.
They do, yeah. I mean, they're not given a lot of options, and it's up to us to provide those options. We get politicians to give lip service lots of times about how they're going to fix things, and they get elected on that, and then they don't. I mean, the legalization of cannabis is the glaring example there of how they said, oh yeah, well, we're going to legalize weed. I remember watching Trudeau in Kelowna saying, we're going to legalize weed.
So we're in the midst of, since COVID came out, they also released the guidelines on the risk mitigations for substance use. So all the Safe Supply project.
A safe supply, which is this is the safest supply right here.
So this project is Safe Supply is being launched out there. There's almost over 680 people in BC that are taking.
So now they're getting pharmaceutical.
So they're getting pharmaceutical support for their opiate addiction, for their stimulant addiction, for their crystal meth and alcohol, and they say tobacco as well.
But they're not giving it to the people like they want it. I've heard a lot of complaints about it.
Yeah.
And I think the pharmaceutical industry is still profiting because they're selling that stuff to taxpayers who are then now providing it to people. But it's still not being done in a way that should be.
Well, that's what I mean. So they've started it, and it's gotten to a few people. I think they need to blow it out to everybody and make all the substances safe, or make more base substances available.
Reasonable access to that which humans, want to have.
Like coca leaf or poppies or straight, more benign substances, just increase that.
You can't have people going and buying, inherently dangerous substances from an underground, unregulated marketplace. I mean, it's just that's the last thing you can have. It's the mandate of the regulators and our public servants to make sure that doesn't happen. Whatever these substances are that people demand, there will be a supply. That's just how that works. That's not a man-made law. That's an absolute law that if there's a demand for something, there will be a supply. So governments, when they understand that there's a supply of something because of a demand for something, and there's some inherent problems involved, they have a role to play as regulators to come in and try to make sure that the harms are reduced and eliminated if possible. And there's many mechanisms that they can put in place to do that, and like all kinds of them. And so,
well, they've imagined a million different kinds of models on how to get medicine to people.
There's a whole bunch of regulations you can put on there, but the bottom line to regulations is that whenever they reach a point where it's going to be easier and people are going to go to an underground market to get it instead of the legal market, whenever it gets to that point, you have to scale back the regulations. You have to regulate it in a way where everybody buys into it. Because if you let the dangerous stuff be supplied by an underground marketplace with no regulations, well, that's where it's really dangerous. So that's the mandate of regulators, is to not allow for exactly what prohibition has caused and overregulation has caused. And here we are again with a safe supply that's not being put... It's not the way that people need to get it. I mean,
not so safe supply.
Not so safe supply that isn't attracting a large percentage of the people that need to buy into it. They need to have a way to get access to what it is that they demand in safe ways, in reasonable ways that keeps them from going to an underground marketplace. It's just the only way to do it. Prohibition doesn't work.
So the safe supply itself, I mean, even as bad as or as many hiccups as we've heard, it's still better than nothing.
It's a start. It's absolutely. Hopefully, we can modify it down the road.
And this also is congruent with harm reduction and substance use, eh?
Yeah.
Creating those more firmer definitions within the public about what they believe it is.
Right.
And it's all about those overlapping traumas.
Yeah.
And people trying to escape them.
Yeah. That's what it comes right down to. And there, but for the grace of God, go any one of us. No business judging anybody who's on any path. I've had so many people come up with different stories and things to tell me. I remember one fellow in Edmonton, I was there doing a rally one time many years ago, and he said, I got 6 months to live. And and I want to do some crack cocaine. And what do you got to say about that? And I said, buddy, it's nobody's business but yours, whatever you want to do. And, it's just not right. And it never works. It always makes it worse when public servants or royalty or people that think they're authorities, whenever they start to get involved with what people want to do for themselves, it always gets corrupted. It always makes it worse. And this is the beast that we're fighting.
Is it really that person wants crack, or is it that person is suffering because he doesn't have a house? He's suffering because he's just broken up with his girlfriend, or
exactly a whole bunch of factors that leads to that, right?
So,
and if we can, and that's the whole point of how you regulate things, is when somebody comes in and they say, I demand crack. You don't just sell the person crack. You make sure that they understand crack. You make sure that they understand who they are, where they're going. That's what we're doing here. With people that are lost, we help them find themselves. We help them find the path that they can walk down that is right for them. And if we had a system that allowed for the dispensing of these things in ways that educated people before they were dispensed, in ways that made it so that we can have contact with people, we can find out why it is that that's what they want. And maybe there's a whole bunch of underlying factors that we can help with that'll change all of that.
So that's a good thing about harm reduction, substance use. It's all about taking that burden, the stigma away from the person that's actually hurting.
Exactly. So stop treating them like a criminal, etc., etc. People who made bad choices, etc., etc.
It's not their problem. It's my problem, and it's your problem. Right?
That's right.
When it's your problem, when you hear that there's drastic, crazy overdose deaths happening, it's my problem. So it's up to all of us to do whatever we can. We can go out there. We can get trained in naloxone. We can tell your MP or your leaders that you support harm reduction, you support getting medicine to people, you support getting homes, getting better income for people, you support more support.
I mean, look what happened with this pandemic that comes along. All of a sudden, the government's got a ton of money. Like all of a sudden, they have the ability to get a whole bunch of money and give it out to people to get them through all of this. Well, we've been suffering a pandemic of poverty and people that are suffering traumas, that are involved with substances that aren't right for them for a long time, and there's been no response like that from government. And they can do this.
It's actually very interesting that you bring this up, Neil.
It's interesting.
My name is Chris Livingstone is my colonial name. My Nishka name is Oaxcotza. And I grew up, or I was a much younger man in 1998.
You would have been
99,
but you didn't look it.
When they negotiated the Nishka Treaty, and when they negotiated treaties with other First Nations groups. So, and when they came to the table and said, "This is what I've got,"
right,
and so this is what we believe that what they've got.
Yes, take them at their word.
And so they got some stuff. They got land. They've got control of their government. They've got rights to do things and a little bit of money to do that. I don't think it's very sustaining for the future, but at the same time, it's that same thing is they had all this money that they can just come out of nowhere, out of the blue, and so that's what I believe that they've negotiated falsely with First Nations communities
for a long time,
and with Nishka people.
Yeah.
So to me, is this a grounds to I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not so happy about it, but to me, it makes me think that government can do more than what they've done, not only for First Nations people, but for Canadian people in general. if you look out, no matter where you are in Canada, you see nothing but land, and it's the Canadian government and the Crown that's saying that it's theirs.
It's theirs.
Is it really theirs?
Where did they get it?
Yeah, it's not theirs.
Yeah, it's not theirs.
And there's enough
And if
room.
it is theirs, then they should figure out, who they should give it back to.
Yeah, and there's enough room and enough resources to get everybody that's sleeping outside inside,
and plenty of reason.
Young people to
and I mean, maybe you guys don't know, but what we know is that when you crunch the numbers, it's very clear that providing homes for people is way cheaper than letting them be homeless and all of the costs that are involved with that.
Or make them staying in a shelter, or make them being part of supported living. People don't necessarily need supported living. They need independence and supported on those. I mean, you can support a person's health by supporting the social determinants.
Yeah.
Their housing, their education, their income, their mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional well-beings. Right? Yeah. All those things can be supported by government.
Yeah. And they pour over $1 million into this neighborhood every single day. Yeah. Much of that going into groups that are just, they're profiting off of helping people stay where they are, basically, not move forward, but just stay where they are. And we could be putting that money, plus a bunch of other money, apparently, into actually solving these issues that are going on down here that really affect everybody in huge ways. Not just these poor sons and daughters of our society that end up homeless and helpless and in poverty and in drug addiction and in pain and depression and all the rest of it, but all of us, that we are all being harmed by this system that allows for this and puts up with this and sustains this, when really we do have the resources, if we wanted to solve it properly. Just listen to the people, nothing about us without us, and those people that have been at the street level working to solve these issues for many, many years have a lot more answers than what the governments do, and they're the ones that should be listened to. Chris, we're kind of getting close to the time here.
Great.
I've really appreciated you coming on again. You're going to be on 4 times, I can tell, because there's still so much more to talk about, and especially with your new ventures and what you're doing next door there and how that's all going to mesh and where we're going, and we're side by side anyway. So
I like new adventures.
Obviously you do, and you've really taken these adventures to heart and done a hell of a lot of good for a long time here on the downtown east side, and I really thank you for that from the bottom of my heart, man.
Thank you as well.
I've been watching you for a while, and you're a very good man. So thanks, Chris, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
I think we're going to...
So how does the marijuana help you out?
It helps with my appetite for eating into stuff, because I use other drugs like meth and stuff like that, which decreases your appetite. But the weed helps balance me out.
Oh, that's
for sleep too, right? Like helps me sleep.
So here's our strains that we have here, West Coast. Would you like the West Coast this?
There it is, right there.
Okay, we have Pink Kush, Master Kush, Green Crack, my favorite, West Coast Sour Diesel, and Bubba Kush. So I'll be coming in and get Green Crack later today. It's pretty busy in here. It's a great little store, nice and friendly.
It's centrally located in my neighborhood, so very convenient. I think many people have looked forward to this moment when there was a location that we can all congregate to and we can all call our home. And that's what I feel that this place has become.
The energy is really nice in here, isn't it? Yeah. So how does the cannabis help you out with your everyday life?
Well, it improves my life to a great degree. It improves my creativity, which is a very big part of my life. My overall outlook has improved. I'm very positive, and I think that it has a beneficial effect on both mind and body. Stress relief is important.
Yes.
It's important that we find avenues that aren't destructive, like alcohol or opiates.
Yeah.
This is what the program was designed to address in the beginning. The incredible problem that we have here in the downtown east side with opiates and drinking. And I think that this program has been a huge benefit to the people of this community.
For me, it helps me in every single way.
Use it for pain, sleep,
and it keeps me at bay with other drugs too. So, yeah, I really depend on this stuff.
How does cannabis help you out with your everyday life?
Pain, majority of it's pain, movement, everything pretty much. I really can't go a day without having some kind of it.
It helps me a lot. I enjoy THC as a healing natural ingredient coming from the earth, which is found in the marijuana plants. And I use I smoke a lot of weed because the oil of the weed is not 100% when you're smoking out of a joint, but there's still oil in it. And between the oil of that, and I use olive oil, pure olive oil, 2 tablespoons a day with smoking weed gives me an enormous amount of energy. I'm 57 years old. I still feel like I play hockey with 25-year-olds.
Wow. I'm your elder. How does cannabis help you out with your everyday life?
Well, I stopped taking psychiatric meds in February, and I'd been on those for 2 years, and I was at the point where like I couldn't even breathe, and just from like the anxiety, a side effect of the medication, and so I started taking CBD oil. So it's been about 3 or 4 months now, and I'm able to catch my breath.
How does the cannabis help you out with your everyday life?
Helps me cope with my my self-esteem and coping with other drugs and family, and it keeps me on the right track.
We got these wonderful people that made us blueberry pancakes that's infused with THC. Can I take a look at them? I've tasted them. They're absolutely fabulous. So we got blueberry, and the blueberry was real berries. It was so wonderful. Felt like fresh berries. And we got pancakes with THC. Infused syrup. Absolutely fabulous. We thank you guys so much. You're a wonderful team. And who was the baker today? Both. It took both of them. So we have team effort. Thank you so much. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, big thanks to Debbie Hellion for doing the video and asking the questions there. And that's a little slice of the people and what it's like here at our new medical cannabis dispensary in Vancouver. And very, very thrilled that we can provide the access that we're providing to these people. And you can tell by their stories and their comments that we're really helping people in profound ways. It's a very spiritual and very enriching thing to be able to do what we've been able to do here. I am very, very blessed to have done that. Not much else to say for today. We have other shows on Pot TV. I'm very happy to be able to have one of those shows on every Tuesday here at 4 o'clock. On Wednesday, Greg Williams tomorrow will be here with From Under the Influence. And Greg has a great take on things. He's the longest running show on Pot TV for 20 some years now. He's been doing a show, and he has a very interesting way of looking at the current situation, and the current situation is very, very interesting. So you put those two things together, and that's a show you got to watch. And we have something else on Thursday, do we?
Morning Glory.
Morning Glory is still a thing.
Oh, absolutely. Getting better every time.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So Wake and Bake with Morning Glory on Thursdays. And Johnny B has his Grow Show, which is...
How's it going?
How's it going?
I want to know how's
I'm going to write it down, you know. There's lots of different variations of that.
Last week he had a light meter, and he tested a $2,200 light versus a $50 light. Yeah, said, if you think you can't grow cannabis, don't tell that to Johnny B. He'll get you growing.
So he had some really good, inexpensive lights that he was growing under, and yeah, of course you can, or you can grow outside, put it in a kitchen window. And so still no high noon going on.
Not quite yet, but still actually a couple of the shows in the works. So.
Okay. Well, could happen. And of course on Mondays it's Carly Marley with BC Bud Gal and doing the 420 Lifestyle Show. So tune into all of that on Pot TV. Go ahead and do whatever you can to advocate for safe supply, easy access to cannabis, people's rights. Let's just try to find ways to gain that freedom that we really deserve to have. And while you're doing it, have as much fun as you can. We'll see you next week.
Cannabis Deputy Stewart's voicemail of the City of Vancouver. If you'd like to...
I'm Carly Marley. Oh, and I'm BC Podcast. Sorry. We are going to be doing a phone protest. Did you want to get stoned? Would you like a dab? A bong rip? I'm sure there will be doobies on the way. 419. I'm going to get my dab ready.
Fight politically by having the Vancouver City Council give us an emergency license to continue to do business because we carry products that you can't get anywhere else. And a lot of people, patients and regular customers, just people who smoke cannabis for recreational purposes or as a substitute for dangerous alcohol, tobacco, or other things, they need access to these products, and it's not fair that they can't get them, and it makes no sense to shut them down. It's hurting people to shut them down, and it hurts no one to allow them to remain open.
It's a really messed up situation because a lot of people keep saying, you know, well, it's legal now.
I'm just sad. I've been there almost 2 years. The amount of people that come in with such positive words and impact, it's just a sad day right now. I don't know, it's a community. It's more than just the marijuana industry. It's more than just making that money. Yeah.
The jobs are there for them, but we just are being forced to close.
The mayor had an opioid task force open hearing, and we went and presented the information that shows that dispensaries literally save lives. You know, the more dispensaries that there are functional in areas, the more that opioid deaths come down.
We've been applying for licenses again and again and again, and they refuse us. They won't even give us the proper form to. And yet somehow other people are being given a license. Yet whenever we ask, the licensing process is closed. I think we should start making some phone calls. Yeah. I'm going to do a dab so I can be nice and high when I call the mayor. Hi there. My name is... Oh, what happened, you guys?
You fucked up,
I
Carly.
fucked up. We got to be polite. I'm calling because I wanted to let you know that I'm in complete disagreement with you closing the existing dispensaries and threatening arrest to do this kind of thing during the opioid crisis when it has been shown that having dispensaries in the area helps decrease opioid overdoses. It's just crazy. It's such a waste of taxpayer resources, all the people that you're putting out of work, and I urge you to please allow dispensaries to get emergency licenses so that they continue to operate. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good one.
No, wait, you said, and I hope you have a good one.
So, one down. You guys, now it's your turn.
It's like, beep, beep, beep. I'm just calling on behalf of the whole dispensary shutdown. I'm just hoping you can please reconsider your decision and give emergency licenses out to the community so we could all stick together. Thank you. Have a good day. Kind of panicked, but...
Nice. Good.
I would hope so.
Then you're all warmed up for your bong rip. Ew.
What flavor are those?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
No. I was not expecting that.
Good? Yeah.
Oh my god, I literally feel like I'm gonna pass out. This is so fucking
What?
gross.
Just look at the lollipop.
Just move your hand for a second. Here, wait, I'll budcam it.
What? What?
No, I can't do, no. Is that...
This is on live on YouTube and Facebook. Pot TV. This channel on iTunes podcast and on...
Is it that foggy outside, or am I just...
I'm scared of everything now. It's just weed. I literally just... that was weed that scared me that much.
All right, welcome to the THC show with Neil, where we talk about the unpleasant truths of our system and our democracy here.
I help patients.
Guaranteed they would.
I know what you're saying.
The only conclusion I can come to is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you, and still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was
was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good.
Yeah, laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And bye.